Hello and welcome to this special Christmas themed ArtCAM Insignia 2012 demonstration. In this demonstration I'm going to show you how you can quickly build up a large piece using very few objects in the clip art library. What I'm going to do is to create a Christmas reef using some of the design tools within ArtCAM Insignia and also using the Relief Clip Art library. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to open a model, and I'm going to open up this holly leaf here and click open. This is now going to ask me to set the size of the image. So I'm going to set this as 100. I'm going to put the origin in the center. I'm going to click OK. And what I'm going to do with this is basically trace around the holly. And I'm going to do this by using the bitmap to vector tool. So I'm going to click here to open the bitmap to vector tool. Here you can see this opens up the dialog box. Now if you take a look down the bottom of the screen in the colour palette, you can see I've got lots of shades of greens in there, lots of different greys and whites, so there's lots of different colours attached to this image. And what I need to do is compress them down into a workable amount, so basically ArtCAM can trace around the picked colour that I select. So if I click reduce colours, I'll just move this out of the way and start to bring that down. Now you can see in the colour palette that it washes the colours into each other, and it's also going to do this within the actual image. So if I bring that right the way down to 2, you can see that that's left me with the outline, but it's also not very detailed. So I'm going to bring some colour back into this. So let's say bring it back up to 3 colours, like so. And I'm going to click OK. So it's brought this light green, and I've also got this dark green. Now what I'm going to do is right click on the light green, and I'm just going to click this button here. What this will do, it will link both of the colours together, so it will turn the lighter green into the dark green. So there you can see that that's linked the colours together. I'm just going to use the default values for this, create the vectors, and I can close the bitmap to vector down then. Now if I just zoom in, just drop the contrast down, you can see that that's given me a really nice outline. It's not following all of the pixelation here, it's giving me a nice outline, nice vector there. Now if I take a look under Untitled here, you can see the image that I brought in was very low res, so it's a really low resolution image. So it's 180 by 300 pixels. So I need to up this resolution in order for any 3D work that I create to be at a decent resolution, so it gives a good finish. So I can do that by holding the mouse down over here and coming down to adjust model resolution. And I'm going to up this to anywhere above 1500 and click OK. So now this has upped the resolution. So if you take a look back where it says artwork, you can see it's now 1540 pixels by 2500. Now something that we've updated within ArtCAM Insignia 2012 is the ability to import AI and AIEPS files. So if I go to vectors and import, you can see I have a AIEPS file here. I'm just going to click open, and I'm just going to center that, and I'm going to right click and ungroup all of the vectors. So there you can see it's just a few lines there. These are going to be used for the 2 rail sweep, so I'm going to actually model this leaf now. So what I'm going to do is to open up the two roll sweep, and I'm going to select the left vector as the top drive rail and the right vector as the bottom drive rail. I'm going to select the top vector as a cross section. I'm also going to add it again while selected. So at the moment, if I were to create this two rail sweep, it would just basically extrude this cross section through these two drive rails. But I'm also going to add a third cross section, which is that one. So it's going to go from 1 to 2 as the top cross section, and then from 2 to 3 it's going to be from the top one down to the bottom cross section here. But what I'm going to do is to change the position of number 2, because I only want that to affect our model on the stem here. So I'm going to change where number 3 starts. So it's going to start to modulate from there into the smaller one at the bottom. So I'm going to click calculate now and go to the 3D view to take a look at this. So that's looking okay, but if I take a side view of this, you can see that this is actually going underneath the 0 plane. Now I don't really want that because it's going to be cut off. So what I'm going to do is to take another isometric view. Now I can also do this within the 3D view. So I'm going to undo that, and this time I'm going to add a start height. So it's going to add a flat before it creates the sweep. So I'm going to add a flat of 2 millimeters, and then it's going to start curving over. So if I click calculate now, you can see that it's added this flat. So if I turn off the vectors, take another side view, you can see that this is not going underneath the 0 plane there. Okay, I can close the two rail sweep now. Let's turn the vectors back on. I'm just going to select the outside shape of the holly, and I'm going to open up the shape editor. Now the shape editor is a very useful tool for creating reliefs. You can create domes, you can create beveled edges, or you can create flats. You can even limit these to a height or scale them to a height. So let's say for instance if you wanted to create a chamfer, or you wanted to create a radius around an edge, you can do this by limiting it to a height. It also acts as a cutting or a trimming tool. So what I'm going to do is to use the zero rest tool. I could also zero it. Now you can see it's cut out everything on the inside of the vector. I'll just undo that, zero rest, it cuts everything on the outside of the vector. So if I just turn off the vectors, you can see that that's cut my shape out for me. Now if I just rotate around, you can see that the stem is sticking up quite a lot. So what I'm going to do with this is fade this down. I'm going to do this using the fade relief. Let's just turn on the vectors again. I'm going to select the outside vector and open up my fade relief. I'm going to do this, let's say about 50%, and I'm going to select both points. So I'm going to do it from there to around about there, and then click create. You see that this has dropped this down. Now it's still sticking up a little bit, so let's create it again, and I'll drop it down another 50%. So there you can see that that's perfect. So I can close the fade relief now. And now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of realism onto this. If I wanted to, I could also display the bitmap in the 3D view, just so it shows the colour within there. Let's go back to the material, and what I'm going to do is to create a texture relief. Now this allows you to add textures onto reliefs, so I can do this over the whole relief, I could do it over a selected vector or colour, and we have default shapes already in this dialog. So we have spherical, elliptical, cones, pyramids, or even a weave. Let's say, for instance, I wanted to do a spherical texture, let's say 5mm, and then click add. You can see that that's added a spherical texture to the whole of the relief. Now I can do this within a selected vector like so, and click add, and it will just do it within that selected vector. So now you can see our holly looks as though it's wrapped up in bubble wrap. So I'm going to undo that because it doesn't look very realistic whatsoever. What I'm going to do is over the whole relief. Now a really useful thing that you can do with this is do this from a file. So what I'm going to do is do this from the original holly leaf, and I'm going to drop the texture onto the top of it. So if I click open, and let's change the Z height, let's make it a little bit more pronounced, let's say 2mm, and then I'm going to click add. Now you can see that it's added that texture onto the top of our relief. Now we also have a little bit of noise outside the boundary here, so what I'm going to do is just double click on the vector for the outside, and again 0 rest, and it will get rid of all that noise. Let's turn off my vectors so you can see. And what I'm going to do is just smooth this out so it all blends in nicely. Let's do it, let's say around 5 passes, and now you can see it's smoothed the leaf out. Now if I turn off the 0 plane, you can see just the leaf. And what I can do now is just select all of the vectors, just delete those because I don't need them any longer. Now what I'm going to do is to move this into my relief clip art library. So if I open up my relief clip art library, and I'm going to come down to my Christmas folder, here you can see I already have a holly leaf. What I can do is just grab this relief and just drag it into the relief clip art library and let go, and then you can see it's created a relief in here called relief 1. Now I can also right click and just send to relief clip art library. Now one thing that we can do now is that you can right click on these, and if you wanted to find this file within your Explorer, it will automatically go to there if you just select locate file. So it's quite easy to find the files. Also you can rename these or you can delete them. So just delete that, and let's rename the one that I've just dropped it in there to holly leaf. So there you can see I have my holly leaf. Now I don't need to save this holly leaf, it's already saved within the relief clip art library. So what I'm going to do is just close the relief clip art library, turn on the 0 plane, and let's reset the relief. Take a plan view of that, and what I'm going to do is just create a circle. Let's do this, let's say 10mm, and I'm just going to create this. Let's place it in the centre. If I just zoom in on this, and I'm going to go to node editing. So there you can see I'm in node editing within the 3D view. So what I can do now is just drag these out. This is actually going to be for a berry. Now I don't want the circle to be perfectly concentric because it's a berry, it's not perfectly formed. So let's say about there, and I'm just going to double click on the vector, and I'm going to create a dome for the berry. Let's say 30 degrees angle, and I'm going to add a start height to this, so it's going to add 5mm and then create the dome. So if I click add and then rotate that around, you can see that it's created this berry for me. Now I can open up the clip art library again. Here you can see a berry that I made earlier. I'm just going to delete that, and I'm going to grab this relief and throw it into the relief clip art library. Now let's rename that to berry. So you can see I've got the berry and the holly leaf. Now I'm going to reset this relief layer again, and I'm going to create a twig. So I'm just going to delete this vector here, and I'm going to go to a plan view, and let's create a polyline. Now what I can do with this is, if I wanted to create smooth polylines, I can toggle that on there, and you can see it shows me an S over the cursor. I can press S on the keyboard and it will turn it off. So on the keyboard, S just toggles that on and off. Now what I can do is switch between smooth, turn off the smooth, and there you can see it goes jagged again. Now if I've done any of this wrong, I can just press minus on the keyboard and it will go back steps. Now if I wanted to, what I can do is, let's say I'm drawing something there and now I'm off the screen. What I can do is zoom out and then zoom back in using my scroller into that specific space. So I can zoom back out, back in. Okay, so just a few things that have changed with the polyline. So I'm just going to do a curvy line like so. Press Control on the keyboard, and I'm just going to copy that to the side like so. Now I'm going to show you the add to existing vector. So make sure that the add to existing vector is on. You can see that that's automatically attached to that vector, and I'm just going to come around here. You can see that it's added onto the top of there. Like so. So that's all one vector at the moment. So what I'm going to do is open up the shape editor again, create a dome of 90 degrees this time, and I'm going to add that like so. Now I'm going to start using the sculpting tools in ArtCAM Insignia. So the first thing that I'm going to use is the erase tool. I want to get rid of the ends. I want it to sort of fade down at the ends, so when I create multiple copies of this, it overlays each other quite nicely. So let's bring the strength up to about 10%, and I'm just going to go over the top here like so. I think that that will do. Maybe drop the strength down just a touch, just to have this blending in a little bit more here and also here. So that's my erasing done on that. Now I'm just going to show you, if you wanted to, you're not really going to see this texture, but if you wanted to create a texture on this, what you could do is bring the radius right the way down to something really small and just start erasing on the top of this stem. Now I'm not going to do the whole of this stem or the twig, because when I've created hundreds of these, you're not going to notice the difference anyway. So there you can see, just created all of these, and now I can go into the smoothing tool and just start smoothing these off. I can make it a little bit stronger if I wanted to, maybe too much there. I can start smoothing this off. It just adds this little texture to it. So if I close the smoothing tool now, I'm going to create some more stems here. So what I'm going to do is just So I'm just going to join this up, and I'm going to draw smooth polylines again. And I'm just going to join this up at the end here, like so. And let's do the same, just coming out of the top here. And let's just turn off smooth polylines. Turn smooth polylines back on. There you can see my two parts there. Just going to shift select both of these and open up the shape editor. So again, I'm going to do a dome of 90. This time I'm going to do a merge high. So what this is going to do, it's going to merge the branches into each other. So if I turn off the vectors, here you can see that this is the intersection between the two reliefs. So what I'm going to do is just smooth this out, just so it blends in a lot nicer. So you can see that that's just blending in there. I'm going to do the same just down here. Like so. I think that will do. Now, if I turn off the zero plane and just take a zoom in here, you can see that the smoothing has actually gone on the zero plane. So what I need to do is just get rid of all of this. So the way that I can do that is to turn on the vectors, and I'm going to auto join the vectors by using the trim tool. So if I just zoom in, and I'm going to trim this off here and this off here. Let's also trim this off here, and let's trim that off there and exit the tool. And you'll see that this is all one vector, so it's automatically joined all of the vectors together. I can open up the shape editor again and do a zero rest. This will get rid of any of the bleed from the smoothing tool. So that's my twig finished. So what I'm going to do is open up the Relief Clip Art library. I'm going to delete the previous twig, and I'm going to drag and drop that relief in there. I'm going to rename this to twig. Okay, so with my 3 pieces of clip art, I'm going to start building up my reef now. So I'm going to go to File, New Model, and I'm going to do this 600 by 600. I'm not worried about the thickness. I'm not going to save the changes, already saved within the clip art. I'm just going to delete the material, go straight to the 3D view. Let's take a plan view. Now I'm going to open up the Relief Clip Art library, and I'm going to start bringing things in. And I'm going to bring in a holly leaf, like so. You'll notice that it automatically loads, and I can move that around. Let's move that to around about there, and just going to rotate it around like so. Let's say to around about there. Now what I can do is to move the anchor point, press Control on the keyboard, which will create a copy of the clip art, and I'm going to rotate that around to about there, and then you can see it's created a copy of the clip art. So all of this clip art in blue is floating clip art, it's not been pasted down yet. And I can see how this interacts before pasting down. What I can do is grab a berry, so let's grab that and put that in. Now you can see that this is quite large at the moment, so let's make this smaller. Like so, let's say around about there. I can create copies of this, just press Control on the keyboard and it creates copies. Let's create one there. Let's make this one smaller. Let's say like so. Let's just have a couple of smaller ones. That should do. And there you can see my holly leaf. So what I'm going to do is just select all of these and I'm going to centre them. I'm just going to move these upwards to, let's say, around about there, like so. And what I'm going to do is copy the whole of this holly leaf now. So press Ctrl again. I'm just going to copy that to the side like so. And I'm going to press T, or going to transform, and that will allow me to transform the whole of this clip art as one piece. So I'm going to rotate this around, let's say about there, and let's make it a little bit smaller. Let's say about 100mm, like so. And I'm just going to place this underneath there, like so. So that looks about right. So I'm just going to move it out of the way, off the screen just for a moment. I'll come back to that one later. Now, any clip art can be used as a vector could be used. So if you wanted to do a block copy rotate, or you wanted to sweep this along a curve by pasting along a curve, you can do that with the clip art. You can also mirror the clip art, group clip art together. So what I'm going to do is do a block copy rotate with this clip art selected. So let's just close the relief clip art library down so you can see. And I'm going to select this clip art. Let's do a block copy rotate. And I'm going to do a rotate copy. I'm going to go 360 degrees. And I'm going to do 8 objects. And click apply. So there you can see it's copied all of the clip art around 8 times there. Now with all of this clip art selected, I'm going to group it. So it's all one piece of clip art. So if I select that, you can see it's all one piece of clip art. Now I'm going to bring my second piece of clip art back into the fold now. So just bring that to there. And I'm going to create another rotate copy for this holly. I'm going to do this 21 times this time and click apply. Now with that holly still selected, I'm going to group that. So now I have 2 lots of holly. So I'm going to paste this down, just press enter and paste it down, and then select the larger holly, and this time I'm going to transform this. Now you can see that the smaller holly is just showing through the larger holly at the front. So we need to change the Z range of the larger holly. So I'm going to change that to 10 and then click apply. So there you can see it's now at the forefront of the reef. So go back into transform. Instead of pressing enter, I'm going to click paste. So you can see that that's pasted the larger holly down and it's at the forefront of the piece. So now what I'm going to do is import the twig. I'm just going to turn off the 0 plane so I can see all of the holly clearly. So let's import this twig. I'm going to put that around about there. And let's just put it off to the side, let's say around about there. I can close the transform tool. I'm going to do a block copy rotate with this again. So rotate, and I'm going to do 60 copies for this, and then click apply. So there you can see it's rotated this around. Now I'm going to select the original one, which I think was that one, and I'm going to do a mirror with this. So I'm going to copy the original objects and I'm going to mirror to the right like so. And I'm going to just stick that, let's say around about there. And I'm also going to just rotate this around, let's say like so. Let's say to about there. And I'm going to rotate this also. But I'm going to do this 50 times. And click apply. You can see it's created this woven sort of effect with the twigs around the inside there. So what I can do is select all of these and paste them down. So you can see it's created all of these twigs here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to send this to the Relief Clip Art library. So let's delete this reef that I have here, and I'm going to just drag and drop this into the Relief Clip Art library. I'm not going to give this another name, let's just keep that there. And what I'm going to do this time, instead of dragging this in, I'm just going to click it. What this will do, it will bring in the clip art at the exact place where it was taken from. So this is in the exact place. And what I'm going to do is just rotate this around. Let's rotate it around, let's say around about to there, like so. And this time what I'm going to do is add a start height within the clip art, within the transform. So if I click this button here, this allows me to add flush or to add a start height. So I'm going to add a start height of, let's say 8mm, and then I'm going to click paste. So what this has done, it's brought all of that new clip art into the forefront. So there you can see it's really high at the moment. So what I'm going to do is just scale all of this down to a size that I want. So at the moment it's almost 18. Let's scale it all down to 15. Like so. And I'm going to go back to the Relief Clip Art library. This time I'm going to go to Objects, and I believe we have a bow in here. So I'm going to grab this bow, bring this in. You can see it's really small at the moment. So I'm going to make this a lot larger, like so. Let's say around about there. And I'm going to centre that and just bring this down into place. Let's say about there. I can now close the clip art library, and what I'm going to do is just drop the Z range down because this has got too much 3D in it. And I'm going to drop the Z range down to about 5mm, and then I'm going to add the start height onto it. So let's add a start height of about 10mm and then paste that down. Now there you can see it's not gone through far enough, so let's just undo that. Go back into the transform tool, and instead of having a start height of 10mm, let's try a start height of 15mm and then click paste. So there you can see that that's come through perfectly. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of definition to this bow by using the erase tool. So if I just zoom in on this and use the erase tool, and what I'm going to do is to have a really low strength, so let's say 3%, and let's adjust the pixels, let's say right about 85. What I'm going to do is just click on the bow, and what this will do, it will just drop it down like so. Let's maybe make this a little bit smaller. So if you take a look on the side there, you can see it's added this sort of like ripple effect to the bow. So I can just zoom out, maybe just drop that down there. So you can see it's added this ripple to the bow. Just close the erase tool now, and let's take a plan view. I'm going to create a circle. I'm going to do this, let's say 160. Click create, and I'm going to centre that. Now I can transform vectors also, so let's make this just a little bit larger. I need it to go onto the holly like so. And what I'm going to do with this is to create a flat with this. So if I just double click on it, create a flat of 5mm, and I'm going to merge high. So you can see that that's created this flat. I can delete the circle now. And what I'm going to do is open up the erase tool again. Using the same as before, I'm just going to start running across the surface that I've just created. Now, it may not look like it's really doing anything, but if I just rotate around, you can see it's added a texture to the flat on here. So you can see I've just added in this texture that I've created. Okay, so I'm going to close the erase tool now. Go back to the 2D view, and I'm going to turn on the preview relief. It gives you a really nice preview of the relief within the 2D view. Now I can also pan within the 2D view now. What I'm going to do is just drop the transparency down just a touch, and I'm going to create some text. I'm going to use this engraver text. Here you can see all of the fonts that are available to ArtCAM. These are all the fonts that are in my Windows folder that are installed on my system. So any that you have installed on your system will show up within ArtCAM. So I'm going to select engraver. I'm going to leave it at that size, 83. And I'm going to create some text. Seasons greetings, like so. Click done, and I'm going to centre this. Now if we go back to the 3D view, just double click on this text, and I'm going to create a beveled edge, and I'm just going to add this onto the top of my flat surface. Turn off the vectors, and there you can see my finished reef. So this demonstration just shows you the complexity that you can get into by using ArtCAM Insignia. Now I've done this just creating 3 very basic pieces of clip art, and then using the tools within ArtCAM Insignia to create quite a complex reef. So this brings an end to the demonstration. Many thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.